Fantastic. Thank you all for being here. My name is Huri Gödelekyan. I am the chair of NGO CSW. I'm curious how many of you is the first time today. Please introduce yourself in the chat. And all of those who have been coming for years, please introduce yourself in the chat as well, because we love having people get to know each other and communicate with each other. Thank you all for being here. This is our official October monthly meeting. I can tell you that we are so excited. We are yet again recreating ourselves and becoming and organizing a forum for the first time in a hybrid mode. And we're very excited about that. And you're going to hear all about it from my co-chairs, Pamela and Rosa, in a minute. But I am here to give you some updates from UN Women and also to let you know that I know they're going to mention the parallel events, and we've been getting a lot of questions about how do we choose. We're going to have some in person, and I'm going to be honest with you, we have about 250 rooms. So I'm hoping that we don't have more applications than that and we will accept everybody. But of course, we can't be sure of that. We will definitely communicate with you exactly how we make these choices so that it's transparent and everybody understands how we're going about our choice. We do have a committee that actually goes through the applications, but we'll talk about that more probably next month. I know we got a lot of questions, so I wanted to address that right off the bat. My job here is to really update you on UN Women right now. Unfortunately, there's a few members who are not feeling well and a few members not available, so UN Women is not present. But as you all know, the signing up for the CSW proper has been open and it's going to be open until January. And they're actually reporting that it is the most signing up they've had in a long time. So over 700 people have signed up already. They're also reporting that the statements are closed right now. There's about 200 written submissions that are going to be uploaded pretty soon. So to all of you who have submitted, your statements will be uploaded soon. The expert group papers are being posted soon. And the last thing I can say, oh yeah, we don't have a lot of information on the actual CSW meetings. We've met with some member states already. They're still discussing. It is going to be in person. We're trying to pressure them to also stream them and make them hybrid and also welcome civil society into the room. As you all know, this is something that we've been struggling for years, so we're still doing that. So in some sense, in a lot of ways, we're going back to the CSW that was pre-COVID. The only difference is, and of course, it's always a challenge for civil society, right? We always have to rise to the occasion. As civil society, we have the burden of making sure that we have an open space for everyone and create a hybrid forum that is welcoming for both those who can come in person and for those who can't, to feel absolutely part of the process. So that's my promise. That's my promise from my team. I am so grateful for all of my team. All executive committee members that are here, please, put something on your or put your cameras on. Thank you all for being here. And of course, I can't hand the mic over before I thank our incredible staff in the office, to Devin, and our 3 incredible new interns that we mentioned last month. All right, so at this point, I'm gonna hand over the mic over to my dynamic co-chairs of the forum, both Pamela and Rosa, and then you will hear from the Advocacy Research Group, which is going to be something, as we mentioned last month, a monthly updates, because to us, our advocacy is really important and we want to make sure that you're feeling part of it and you're part of the journey of our advocacy. And then of course, I can't wait for you all to experience our panel. Pamela and Jillian are the co-chairs of this month's panel. And then there's so much we're going to learn. So with that, thank you all again for being here. I will be looking at your messages and interacting with you throughout the meeting. Sit back, relax, and start taking notes on what's going on with the forum. The floor is yours, Pamela and Rosa.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Hootie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for being with us today. We are pleased to once again share the new and improved NGO CSW 67 forum, and excited that we will be using the Hoover platform to host the event. We're really happy about that. It offers an easy-to-use interface and has features that will help to make this year's forum outstanding.
Thank you, Pam. Hello, everyone. Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all. We are thrilled to be here with the 120 plus of you today to bring you information about the NGO CSW forum, CSW 67. Again, we are an all woman of color co-chair team, teaming up with Pam again for the co-chairs of the forum. And so we're thrilled about that. Thank you, Jillian. I see that. And as Pamela said, we have a new and improved portal. We've heard all your inputs. We've made adjustments. And we are bringing a new online platform so that we can engage in many more and better ways. So for now, we're just going to give you this basic information. As you know, today is a monthly meeting, so we have a full program. But as time goes on, you will be receiving updates. If you are not on our listserv, please, I'm sure Devin will put a link in the chat. Please sign up and get on our mailing list so that you receive all the updates. I'm going to just briefly tell you about our open forum, which is happening on November 16th at 9 a.m. And the open forum is really a place to get all previewed information about the forum in March. This open forum will be for an hour of information. Bringing you information will be the orientation and advocacy team, the advocacy and research team. Myself and Pamela will be bringing information, as well as Hootie and other members of subcommittees. And then we will have half an hour of questions and answers. So for an hour and a half, we will give you all the information about the CSW NGO forum. As you may have seen, the parallel events information is out. Also, we will be opening the forum to registration in mid-November, so stay tuned for that. And the online platform will be live on December 5th. All of this information is in our monthly newsletters. So if you have questions, just please put them in the chat and staff will be answering. And if not, you can just look for information that's coming in the monthly bulletins. So let me hand back over to Pam.
Thank you, Rosa. The parallel event applications are now open with a closing date of December 2nd. And as Hootie said, this year we have the ability to host in-person parallel events as well as virtual parallel events. And when you go to www.ngocsw.org and click on parallel events, you'll see at the bottom 2 buttons, one for in-person and one for virtual. Organizations can apply for one in-person and multiple virtual parallel events. So please keep that in mind. We've kept the cost at a very stable level. It's 125 for virtual events, just as it was last year. And there are tiered pricing for the in-person events based on the size of the room. So for years, our parallel events in person were $400. That stays the same for rooms of one size, and then for other rooms, it's $500. Again, it's the best deal in town. And if you feel that your organization would like to do a parallel event, but you don't have the money, please consider partnering with other organizations. And in that way, you can split the cost. And once again, on December 5th, the NGO CSW forum portal will open, and that gives you the ability to register for free, to become acquainted with the platform, and to begin networking. Zonta International hosted their convention, this year's convention on Hoover, and it was a wonderful experience. So we're anxious to get your feedback regarding the new platform. We are really sure you're going to like it. And with that, we thank you, and we'll hand it back to Hootie.
Thank you so much for that quick and excellent updates. I am now going to hand the floor over to Ivy, one of the co-chairs of the Advocacy Research Group, who are doing an amazing work, and I can't wait for you. Be prepared to interact, okay? There's gonna be some questions. I hope you all are ready to think and engage, and let Ivy know what you think. Go ahead, Ivy.
Yes, and I wanted to acknowledge, thank you, Hootie. And so my co-chair, Ani, who I believe is also on this call, and I wanted to thank the whole, advocacy research group membership as well. So Hootie gave you a little teaser that we are going to have an interactive portion of this, and there are 3 parts. We have to get this all done within the next 15 minutes or so. So I'm going to give a very brief recap, and then there's going to be a poll. And at the end, we're going to have an open mic. And the theme for today is all about best practices for advocacy. So any, good tips, any good experiences you have had, we'd like to open the mic for you, and we're going to have a poll with questions around this topic as well, so you can engage. You can always put things in chat as well. So last month was the first month that we shared our survey results with you, and we gave like the 8 points, based on the survey of hot topics around the priority theme, which is on women and girls, gender equality, and how it's affected by technology and digital education. And so from those, we asked you for your top 5. And then we went back to the advocacy research group to further discuss, and we tweaked those 5 topics and combined some things. And so Devin is going to show you what we came up with. And we're proud to say that we will have one standalone recommendation around youth and adolescents. So these are the 5: access and availability on education and training, tech and the impact, the human rights impact and safety. We combine that together. Accessibility, and this was with disabilities and elders specifically, and financial resources, and like I said, on youth. So now we're going to go straight into the poll, and we're going to ask you a few questions, just one question, and you will have multiple choice, and if you can pick your top 3. So of those listed, if you can pick your top 3 choices, I think you should see it. I do see mine now. So after this, we'll open the mic. And any questions, if you have any, please put it in the chat.
Oh, it went away before I could submit.
Yeah.
Yes, it went away too soon.
Yeah. We're trying to put it up again. No.
Thank you.
Okay, I see it again. Is that everyone else probably sees it too?
Thank you. Yes.
I'm gonna read it out loud. Also, just so you know, you can have time to digest what it says. So, what are the methods? The first was about a hashtag, a social media campaign. The second was like an email template. You know how you know, it has already like all the information in it, and it would have the recommendations. All you needed to do is send it to your local or national governments or member states. A graphic. So I have one right now for NGO CSW behind me. So this graphic would be something maybe that we would all use around something and or a TikTok video or a series of videos with information on each of the key recommendations. And trainings, we're already doing, actually, NGO CSW runs advocacy trainings and orientations. And the last is actual visits, you know, mission visits, national meeting, you know, one-to-one, whatever that is, groups. But I think you understand what that means. Does that give you enough time to make your choices? I hope so.
Thank you. Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that response. And yeah, okay, that was enough time. We will see the results, I believe, right? Great. Oh, okay, I see some people requesting like Facebook and LinkedIn. Jillian is here as well, my co-chair of communications, and we do have a plan for advocacy, you know, working up towards CSW. Yes, got it. So I think all of the choices were made. Devin, do we get to see the results, or is that different?
I don't know.
I think.
I don't know.
Oops.
I don't know if it's like working, but it's telling me that no one answered.
Oh, I think I answered.
I don't know if maybe I should try again.
I'll try again, Devin.
We'll do it one more time. I think we all know where our answers are, so it won't take long. Okay, is that good? I think we have a minute.
Okay, we have it now.
Oh, great, wonderful.
Okay, can everyone see it?
Yes, yes, we see it. So the top one I see is the social media is the top choice, 66%. And from there, we have the advocacy trainings. So very good. Actually, they were, I think we had a lot of good feedback about that last year as well. And then meeting with the government. So thank you so much.
I think Ivy, sorry to jump in. I also saw 54% was for the email template, just to note that as well.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in as well, because this is Shyla. Advocacy training and identifying and engaging, that was 61% also.
My apologies. My daughter was supposed to take a nap, but she chose not to. Of course, it's too exciting to be part of NGO CSW. So we'd like to open the mics now for anyone who wants to share anything. You know, it could be what, you know, any of the children.
Caroline, I think you are muted. We can't hear you.
Let me jump in here, Ivy, and hello everyone. This is the co-chair for Advocacy and Research Committee. I work with Ivy, and thanks for the results. I'm already very excited. I was rooting for the email campaign, and the other two choices are also great. What we wanted to do is to allow, use the space and time to allow for people to jump in and share any examples you have had that were not on the list or were on the list, but still worked and were successful. So examples of advocacy efforts that work that you'd like to share with the community, and maybe we'll be inspired by it and add it to our list, or maybe that will inspire the community for their advocacy efforts. So feel free to raise your hand and jump in. But just to make sure we have a couple of responses, if you could limit the comment to a minute or so, that would be super helpful. And Ivy, you can add anything at any time if I missed anything.
Yes,
Shayla. May I speak, Annie? Avi?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so the thing that worked really well for us, I'm Shayla Ramistry from California, STEM Institute, Women Graduates USA, and US Women's Caucus. Thing that worked really well for us and continues to do so is the sign-on letters. So specialized agencies, organizations are putting together a letter in the area of expertise, and it's going around the circuits and signing on and being able to take this and present the amount of support there is to our own legislators in our own country, nation states. That has worked very well. I think it's the power of the individuals and also the global presence, the national and global presence. That's worked well. Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Amazing. And Devin helped me out with joining from my phone and might not see the raised hand. So feel free to help me out there. But if anyone wants to jump in, go ahead.
Danielle Pyle, and then Susan Lee.
Thank you, Huri.
Danielle, I hope I didn't mess up your name. Please repeat it.
It's Danielle Powell. How are you, everyone? I am Danielle Powell. I'm the founder of The World is a Girl's Runway. And I saw someone said in the comments as well that TikTok was rated really low. And I agree. TikTok is also a great platform that we can use to bring awareness to the event. TikTok is a really great platform. It's booming. Get some of the content creators involved, some of the influencers. Let them do videos and content and create even social media campaigns to promote the event. I think that would be a great, just getting the young people, because they're really ambitious about making change. So to get them involved and to get their followers understanding what the UN is doing and what you guys' organization is doing, I think is a great idea.
Thank you. Excellent, thank you. Susan.
Hello, everyone. I'm Susan Lee from the US Women's Caucus at the UN. One thing that we've done is to engage with the zero draft process and advocate for specific phrases or topics, at various points in the development of the agreed conclusions. It's sort of a technical task in that you have to know what the timing is for putting in what sort of input. Some sort of input is appropriate at the beginning and others later on in the process. So you have to learn that. The advocacy booklet that's put out by NGO CSW New York explains some of that and helps you figure out when to do what. So we have a contact with a US mission person who is engaged in those negotiations. And as we go through the zero draft process, we convey to her what we're looking for, feedback about what we like in the subsequent drafts, what we'd like to see changed. You know, it's always very hard to see how effective you are, but it is a way to engage with it. You have to be sort of technically, you have to know how the process develops in order to do it. The U.S. Women's Caucus is going to be developing an advocacy group for U.S.-based people if you want to be involved in our advocacy with the U.S. mission. So if you let us know, we can include you in our planning for our advocacy process next March.
Thank you, Susan. And you saw there's someone already volunteering, and I don't know if Ivy can respond to what you said, because we certainly are working directly with the Bureau on recommendations for zero draft. Over the years, we have learned that the earlier we get in, the better. But Ivy, do you want to jump in? And you can have your partner there speak with you, or do you want me to continue?
No, it's okay. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Can you hear me? No.
It's kind of low, but if you can just address the fact that your advocacy group has a lot of technical help as well in the language, the way you propose language with member states, and how we really work with them to also make it as simple as possible too, because sometimes, yeah, I don't know. Go ahead, Ivy.
Yes, the advocacy research group consists of, we've been working with various experts as well, and we're right now, I didn't actually finish what I was sharing about the 5 recommendations. Actually, they're being tweaked right now. What you saw was just the general theme. So from there, we're going to work on the language so that we have our advocacy points very clear. And Susan, I didn't know, was there also like a list? Is there a way that people can join you in the US?
Yes, she said she definitely shared the email. I also wanted to ask Zonzua, because Zonzua is really putting in so many great ideas of other regions on how they advocate. So I don't know if she can get on the mic, and we only have a minute left, but I'd love to hear from another region on how they do advocacy.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Uri. Absolutely. For us in the Central African region, it depends on the target. If we have to engage the policymakers like the ministers, physical meetings is what works. But then if we have to engage those right down at the grassroots, like I shared in the chat, illustrative graphics that explains and really breaks down this whole, UN language, which seems sometimes intimidating and, like too high educated. Bringing down to the simplest thing is what really works. But then in terms of the mass public, social media, including traditional medias, is the best advocacy tool that for us we use, and it really creates a lot of impact. And we can have testimonial from the generation equality, where we had less than 100 civil societies who were aware of the generation equality processes to now over 8,000. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I see Seema's hand. I'm going to give you 30 seconds, Seema, if you don't mind, because we need to move on with the, and this has been amazing. It really shows us how much we need to do more of this. So we'll try to squeeze in more minutes each month for this kind of discussion. Thank you for all your participation. Go ahead, Seema, 30 seconds.
Thank you, Huri. I think 30 seconds is good enough for me. I just want to say that in my part of the region, Asia Pacific and India, here I think that we follow is personally going in field, going to the schools, going to the villages works a lot, because that, when the presence is there, it effective, but also at the same time, we are using methods like Instagram Reels, because TikTok is banned in India. So we are using a lot of Reels and social media presence. And also we are using the method of, videos. Wherever we go, we take portable projectors and we show more videos. And also we are doing a lot of skits. We are doing street plays, which is also very, very effective for us in our country. Street plays are really very effective. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I see the reaction, and we will definitely allow more time for this kind of an interaction. And I can't really miss this opportunity to say we together in solidarity stand with our sisters in Iran. This actually obviously makes perfect sense on how they can't use any of the social media and how we're all showing them support from in however way we can. And just so that you know, we are working on doing an event, a global event to show our solidarity with them. So look out for an email for perhaps an event early November. Now, thank you for your patience, panel. Pamela, I'm sorry we took an extra 2 minutes, but I hope you understand how important this was. I'm so glad we heard from different regions as well. And thank you, Ani and Ivy, for all your work. The floor is Pamela and Jillian's now.
Thanks, Huri. I'm gonna shift gears a little bit from all of the business part that we started and move on to welcome everyone to today's session on transformative learning, where we explore pathways to achieving gender equality through digital innovation. CSW 67, scheduled for March 2023, focuses as a priority theme on innovation and technological change, education in the digital age for achieving gender equality, and empowerment of women and girls. So this is where we're going to set our agenda for today's meeting, along with our expert panelists. The Secretary General's report on our common agenda stresses the importance of a renewed social contract to achieve gender equality through innovation and technological change. We over here at NGO CSW are totally geared to advocate for education through digital empowerment. We have with us today Ms. Isata Kabia, who's the founder and director of Voice of Women Africa and the CEO at Afrology, a social impact training and manufacturing company which focuses on mentoring financial management training opportunities for women and youth to establish and manage their own enterprises. You might also know that the UN recently concluded the Transforming Education Summit and shared tangible outcomes which claim to include the creation of multiple online platforms to train member states, local governments, and educators to transition their education systems into digital spaces. So we therefore thought fit to invite Ms. Antara Ganguly, the director and head of UN Girls Education Initiative Secretariat, to shed light on the importance of measuring girls' digital participation and holding EdTech accountable. You know that Huri has spoken very often, as has the whole exec, that we support gender inclusive initiatives which increase access to lifelong literacy. We're privileged to have with us today Alejandra Ceja. Alejandra is the executive director of Panasonic Foundation and responsible for leading the foundation's investments in educational equity. Alejandra is also the former executive director of the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for Hispanics. Trying not to speak too quick here. Last but not the least, our final speaker for today is Ms. Migdala Cooper. She's a Liberian philanthropist and founder of the Migdala Cooper Foundation, an organization dedicated to improving the lives of children and women in Liberia. In 2010, Ms. Cooper launched the MCF Academy, a tuition-free boarding school for vulnerable and at-risk children in Liberia. But I hand over today's session to be moderated by our very own executive committee member, Pamela Morgan. Pam is chair of Zonda International, but a little known fact about Pam, she herself has been an educator for 36 years, and no one better place to understand and appreciate the importance of this priority theme and today's conversation. And with that, Pam, floor's all yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Jillian. And again, thank you to everyone who is here for being with us for today's program as we interrogate CSW 67 themes regarding education in the digital age for achieving gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls, and the review theme of challenges and opportunities in achieving gender equality and the empowerment of rural women and girls. This session is quite personal for me. In 1985, I began my journey as an educational technologist with a goal, which was to unleash the power of digital tools for academic achievement and to enable youth to equitably move beyond the digital divide, considering the haves and have-nots regarding social class and gender. For more than 2 decades, I served as an educational technology administrator, developing projects and policies to guide educators to prepare young people for an uncertain future, where the jobs, the work for which they were being prepared did not yet exist. Over the last few decades, we've made modest gains in the use of digital technologies in education. Connectivity was installed in some schools. There was an attempt to use multimedia to alter the teaching and learning process. Attempts to use technology to alter the assessment process have been made, very small steps. Teacher professional development, illustrating the use of digital technologies in the educational process, generally met with resistance. Although there is some mention of the use of educational digital technologies in SDG 4 and in other plans on state and federal levels, there was not an aggressive push for the implementation. 2 years ago, we were thrust into the middle of a revolutionary pandemic that thrust educational systems worldwide into a new way of looking at things. People were forced to look at new learning models, which included distance education. And what we saw was that the true global digital divide was exposed, and the necessity of having thoughtful, quality, public digital learning for all, looking at content, capacity, and connectivity was right there in our faces. It is reassuring to know that UNESCO and UNICEF have launched a global initiative on public digital learning to advance national and international goals for education. Today's session is exciting as we have a wealth of inspirational practitioners, including those from UN agency, corporate, and grassroots backgrounds, who will share their practical experiences, enabling us to look at formal and informal digital education in ways it can change the trajectory of a woman and a girl's life. Although Jillian has introduced the panelists to you, I'd like to share a few personal insights before we get started. Alejandra Ceja's work with the Panasonic Foundation and her work with the Obama White House has been remarkable in providing resources to those youth in underserved communities. For me, she is inspirational. At the Panasonic Foundation, she took a very good program to the next step in providing digital access to underserved youth, particularly girls. It's gratifying for me to have her here to share her work. Thank you for being here, Alejandra. Magdala Cooper is quite a phenomenon. Her vision for Liberia prompted her to run for president of the country in 2017. And although she was not victorious, she did not stop planning and serving the poor and underserved in Liberia. I believe that you will be as awed as I am when you hear about her vision and her work in advancing STEAM education in Liberia. Magdala, thank you so much for joining us. When the Honorable Isata Kabia described her work with rural women to me, I was completely taken by the power of her informal educational training and transforming the lives of women and girls, taking them to an unexpected level of digital sophistication. Isata, supreme thanks for you being here with us. And finally, the work of UNGEI in informing the lives of women and girls through education is laudable. And I am deeply appreciative that Director Antara Ganguly took the time to be with us today. The bios for all panelists are in the program, and a link to the program is in the chat. Please, just as housekeeping, put all questions in the chat. We will have a Q&A session at the conclusion of the presentations from the 4 panelists. The GEM report, the Global Education Monitoring Report, suggests that education should be relevant and respond to technological advances, helping children, youth, and adults to develop the flexible skills and competencies they need to live and work in a technology-driven world. Today's panelists will provide on-the-ground examples of how they are serving that mission. Alejandra, the floor is now yours.
Thank you so much, Pam, Jillian, and to all of you joining. What an honor to be here in community with you all. I wanted to take some time to just share a little bit about the work that we're leading at Panasonic and in the community. Pam, will somebody pull up my slides? Or... Great. I wanted to, if you're familiar with the name Panasonic, you've probably heard of our televisions, big consumer electronic company. I wanted to honor our founder. We've been around for a century, and our founder's vision has always been instituted in really making sure that a company like a Panasonic can support, inspire society. He really believed technology should move us all forward. That legacy is really embedded in the 7 basic business principles we have as a company. This next slide will show you that our 7 basic business principles start off with contribution to society. So I have the honor to lead that work for Panasonic in North America. But we are rooted in gratitude. We're rooted in cooperation and team spirit. This was our founder's vision. He was a great visionary, and it's an honor to continue that legacy forward in communities of color across North America. This next slide, I wanted to highlight some of the statistics we have in regards to our social impact and inclusion office that I lead. Our mission really is to support the needs of our employees, the communities where we have business presence, and to really support the education and career growth of our industry by creating platforms and opportunities for all people to excel. We are working to create a supportive and diverse, inclusive environment so that we can create pathways for young women and girls, students of color into our industry. Through our foundation, we are helping close the educational gap that we all know exists in underserved communities by providing access to STEM education. We're deeply rooted in investing in STEM through our foundation, and really into contributing to the preparation of students in those future tech jobs. And something Pam mentioned was, we're still thinking through what the future of work will hold for our communities, because technology continues to innovate, shape, and transform the workforce. This next slide is an opportunity for us to really, as a foundation, we're deeply rooted in data. We're deeply rooted in trying to advance education policy around STEM. In North America, nationally, 24% of students are in high poverty schools. Typically, what we've seen is that the average public school math proficiency is 47%, with proficiency dipping as low as 35% in other focus areas. Only 20% of ACT students, and ACT is it's a standardized test for college admissions, are demonstrating that they're college and career ready. 52% of high poverty schools offer a statistics class, while 88% of wealthier schools offer a statistics class. So we definitely know that there continues to be an opportunity gap when it comes to the preparation courses in STEM that a student needs to be college and career ready. And we know that without education and resources to excel in STEM from kindergarten to 12th grade to higher education, our young women will not be prepared to enter those workforce-related STEM jobs that we know will require some level of STEM proficiency. The chart you see there, it's just the representation that in the workforce, there continues to be more representation of men in STEM fields than women. This next slide, I wanted to highlight what we typically have seen based on research, that many of our young women will lose confidence in math by 3rd grade. And we've seen that our young women typically score higher than boys in math in our low-income areas. But those scores are disproportionately low compared to boys in high-income areas. 70% of young women in middle school have expressed an interest in engineering and science and math, but only a small percent continue with STEM education. Only 0.4% of girls choose computer science as a major when they get to college. So the statistics in North America are that women occupy about 26% of STEM jobs, when we know that the demand in the future of work will only continue to increase. So our work in this next slide is focused on how do we close the opportunity gap, especially in communities of color, in low-income communities, high poverty schools for our young women. How do we continue to inspire them? And we want to make sure that opportunity should not be dependent on a student's zip code. We want to make sure through our philanthropy, through our corporation and the work that we're doing in elevating technology, that all students can have access. We are in the process of investing in innovative initiatives that help inspire our young women, introduce them to STEM. One of the initiatives that I'm really excited about is the Million Girls Moonshot Initiative. This is an opportunity where we have funded the work that they're doing with the National Girls Collaborative Project to make sure that there is an equity inclusion framework that will be applicable to all 50 states. We work with Girls Inc. They are in Georgia, in Atlanta, Georgia, where we have our automotive division. And we have our female engineers, our scientists working with students, teaching them about solar power, electricity, and so much more. There's a phenomenal nonprofit in Los Angeles, Ellie's Promise Fund, that we work with. They every year come together in support of Girls Build. It's an opportunity for them to pull together teams of young women to implement social impact projects. A lot of what you see in terms of the nonprofits that we invest in and that we work with support our young women and girls, have a strong STEAM. We add the arts into the science, technology, engineering, and math. We add the arts because we know that the future of work will require some level of STEM proficiency. There is an exciting initiative that I also wanted to flag for you all that has a lot of digital resources for educators, students, and families, and that's the STEM Forward Initiative. It's a partnership with Olympic champion Katie Ledecky and Discovery Education. We want our young women to be inspired by a lot of the great work from our nonprofits and champions like Katie Ledecky, who talks about how STEM influences her swimming competitions, how math is used for her to calculate to the nanosecond how she needs to improve her performance. This partnership, if you go to discoveryeducation.com, is called the STEM Forward Initiative. There are tons of digital resources available, again, for educators, students, and families. There's a virtual field trip with Katie Ledecky that goes behind the scenes of Panasonic, and it takes students and teachers and families through 5 innovation centers. So we've moved on from just being a consumer electronic company to powering e-bikes, to doing the infotainment that's available on airplanes, in cars. And we want to make sure that through initiatives like STEM Forward, through initiatives like the Million Girls Moonshot, we can continue to put a lens on the need for our young women to have access, to be inspired, and to create strong pathways into our industry so that when we talk about the future of work, it is strongly aligned with the preparation and development and investment we're making in our community. So I'll pause there, and I look forward to the discussion after my other colleagues present. Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandra, for presenting that comprehensive view of your work with girls and STEM. And at this point, we've heard about a program from the Global North, and now we're going to move to the Global South. And we invite the Honorable Assata Kadia to share her story of empowerment of rural women using digital technologies.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, Alejandra, for that beautiful presentation. And even though it was about the North, we can see how access even there is not universal. And for us in Sierra Leone, we have had to use a combination of existing low-tech access opportunities as well as high-tech to make sure that we're able to train and upgrade and build capacity of women and girls in rural areas. So I work with, if I speak to Afrilosophy, which is our social enterprise, which gives skills to women to build sustainable businesses, but also to increase their financial access. And these are women mostly in the informal sector with very small, tiny, micro businesses, usually not registered. Usually they're the sole employees, and they're kind of precarious businesses, $20 worth, $30 worth. And it's about buying and selling commodities. And usually these are fresh produce. So if you buy tomatoes and you can't sell tomatoes, they're gonna go bad. And that's the end of the business. And what we've tried to do is to do small scale manufacturing. So you can actually turn tomatoes into tomato sauce or juice, and you can have a longer shelf life for your farm produce. I work 2 hours from the capital city, Freetown, in a rural setting, which also happens to be a mining community. And when we started this initiative, it was because we had increased access to opportunities for men when the mining started up again. And it brought about increased social issues for women and girls. So I focused on women and girls and trying to make sure that they are able to generate income and have better managed businesses. This area also does not have universal access to education. So we're working with women who mostly have never been to school or are lowly educated. And in order to prevent the cycle of having girls in particular not going to school, we focused on making sure their mothers had income. And this was the logic behind when we started our philosophy working with women. Now, my background is cosmetic chemistry, so I had some experience in that, and we started training in manufacturing body products, soaps, personal care, household cleaners, and that kind of thing. And in the process, you're empowering minds, you're building self-belief, because people who have barely been to school are now capable of doing things they never imagined they could do. And if we're able to build self-belief for women, they're able to pass that on to their daughters. Pamela at the beginning mentioned the COVID for example, and how we were all forced to use technology. And we had been through this cycle already with Ebola. So at the time, Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone were going through the Ebola epidemic, and schools were closed. Children were forced to be schooled from home. And for us, innovation, imagine, at the time was radios. So they were mostly schooled on radio programming because the digital penetration was still so low. And even during the cycle of COVID, it is still so low. Imagine being a woman who's never been to school, who runs a business that's not registered, and you don't have a bank account. So you don't have access to financing in any shape or form. Your physical business money, as small as it is the only thing you have. And what we've been able to do with women we work with is literally to leapfrog from low tech or no tech to digital financing, because women who don't have traditional bank accounts are quite willing to keep their money on their phone because of mobile money. And they are comfortable with this, more comfortable with this than walking into a bank where they imagine they'll have to encounter having to write or read something, which they don't have the capacity to do. And because children living in the cities or children living in the global north send monies to mothers in villages, we have women who are really quite comfortable with tech money and mobile money more than they are with traditional bank accounts. And it's the same way we've been able to do this. It's the same way our region in Africa has to leapfrog with formal education as well. So we can't do educational growth and capacity building in the same way the North has done it. We literally have to leapfrog past the radios and past the low tech, straight to high tech. Otherwise, we will continue to be left behind. Africa can't get to energy, resourcefulness, and water, universal water access in the same way the North has done it, because that would include coal energy and increase global warming. We have to leapfrog to clean energy. So we have to go in our regions from no tech to high tech, but we have to bring the people along, and we can't leave anybody behind. So our process of training has included physical training, which means we're there on the ground with the women, forming small groups to be able to give them access to these trainings, but also make sure we are training them on the necessity of high tech to be able to access their monies online. AfriLosophy, in addition to the skills we give for small scale manufacturing, has what we call a village savings and loan scheme. And for the village savings and loan scheme, we have groups of 25 to 30 women per group. And it's a peer-to-peer lending, so they can have access to finance. Otherwise, they don't get access to loans for their businesses, or they get access to extortionist loans, which go at 40 or 50% interest rates. So the peer-to-peer lending enables them to have loans within the group. They set their own interest rate. And once the cycle is completed at the end of the year, they share the proceeds and they start all over. The stories we hear annually at this gathering has been most fascinating. So there is, for example, apart from the business loans, there is an informal health scheme built in, because you can take an interest-free loan for a health emergency, for school funds, for example, to pay school fees. And there is the idea that you're no longer vulnerable to arrests for non-payment of extortionist loans. You no longer know the road to the police station. And these are the stories we hear from the women. So with very small funding, we've been able to increase, we've given out more than 500 loans in these circles. We have 250 women now. And we want to grow this into a federation and eventually into a women-owned bank. So we want women to fund women businesses, but we also want women to form to fund women's leadership. And we can't divorce the access of financing to increase participation of women in decision-making spaces, for example. So those who actually vie for community offices now are those who are able to generate sustained income in these small villages, and they found their voice in different ways because they feel secure in their homes, and they're able to fund women candidates in broader national leadership. So the idea of empowering women financially is connected to our broader leadership dream for women. The idea of educating girls sustainably is, of course, the pipeline into these women leadership that we all dream about. And education for girls has to be a priority, not just in my region, not just in our corners, but globally. If Alejandra is talking about a zip code being the basis upon which opportunities are given, imagine those of us who don't have a zip code and how far and removed we are from opportunities. And we on the front line, those of us on the ground, funding and innovating and initiating these must be supported, because I am there with community roots. A friend of mine taught me very recently not to say grassroots, community roots. And these are the pillars. These are the strength. These are the women who will make sure those girls go to school, because when mothers have money, their girls will stay in school longer. These are the women who will form the basis upon which Africa's female participation, leadership participation is built. And if they don't go to school, we can't talk about that. And we are there on the ground trying to do this village by village, person by person. And it's a hard road, but you wake up every morning choosing this road because you know it's unavoidable. It is the path we have to continue to clear to ensure that globally we are all okay. And on that note, I really like to say thank you so much for having me here. And I look forward to any questions and comments.
Thank you, Isara. Every time I hear you speak, I become full, because it is quite amazing. Your work is quite amazing.
Thank you.
And the interesting thing is that you meshed together the priority theme and the review themes of CSW 67. So how digital technologies are actually used on the ground with rural women, and how you had to leapfrog from no tech to high tech. It's truly inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We now welcome Antara Ganguly. Antara, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Thank you, Alejandra and Isata, for those wonderful presentations. I didn't bring slides. I wanted to start with some statistics. This is a UNICEF brief on the gender digital divide for girls. But look, I'm going to be really frank with all of you. I come from you guys. I don't come from the, from the education space. I'm a women's empowerment and girls empowerment practitioner. I used to be with UN Women. I've been with UNICEF now for the past, oh my goodness, 7 years. And I have a bone to pick with all of you. I have a bone to pick with our community of women's rights actors, which is we don't do enough for girls. In all of our conversation on the gaps between men and women, which continue to be so large, we are just not doing enough to bring girls into that. We add girls in our documents, especially here in the UN, but girls have added vulnerabilities. They have age-based vulnerabilities in addition to the patriarchy that all of us are fighting. So I'm going to start with some stats, and then I have 2 points to make at the end of it, and then I'd love to hear more from all of you. So in this UNICEF report, there's some GSM data. GSM, of course, is the global sort of articulator of data on mobile phones and internet. And here we say, they say that women are 8% less likely to own a mobile phone than men. But more than that, women are 20% less likely than men to own a smartphone. And I think what all of us here know is that when less educated women blue collar women, even when they own a smartphone, they're so intimidated by it and they don't use all the features. And there's data in this report that confirms that. Here you go, limited use of less expensive and sophisticated handsets by women. And even when they have the more sophisticated handsets, they use less features on it. There is no age and sex disaggregated data on internet use and on mobile phone use. This is a travesty. I mean, it's a travesty on us, on the UN, but it's a travesty on all of us that we don't have this information. From what we've been able to cobble together from around the world, here's the stat. 40% of boys use the internet on their phones compared to 27% of girls. That's just for those kids that even have mobile phones. We don't even know what percentage of girls and what percentage of boys have phones, how many minutes a day, how many minutes a week they actually get to spend on a phone, but we know that girls is significantly less. I come from South Asia and I can tell you the digital divide there it's vast and it's not decreasing. One study, this is again from this report, this is on digital literacy, means that women users are more likely to report difficulties in using digital technology compared to men. One study found that women are 1.6 times more likely than men to report lack of skills as a barrier to internet use. Now, this is not about the internet. This is about gender norms, which is the reason why all of us do the work we do. Women are also more tentative, and Isata will know this better than anyone else. A woman who has not used a bank her whole life is also going to be much more likely to feel intimidated about walking into a branch than a man. Men have more, their gender, their privilege gives them a, how do I put it? Less of a fear of doing the wrong thing. They're more confident and comfortable walking into a situation they don't know. And media continually reinforces that. You know, for ads for mobile phones always show a man, you know, with a pretty woman next to him, but it's a man holding the phone. So the man is constantly getting the message, this is mine, I own it. So what if I don't know what I'm doing? So what if I'm sending blank text messages to my daughters? My dad did to me when he first got a mobile phone. By the way, so did my mom. But, you know, she was embarrassed by it. My father was not. Like, you know, he was very comfortable in what he was doing. And that is about gender. That is not about technology. And this is another sort of, not a bone, but something that I feel like we as women's rights, as organizations, as feminists need to take on. This whole conversation on digital cannot be had by the people doing digital tech. It's got to include us. It's got to include all of you. It's got to include girls' rights activists. We have to bring back the conversation, not just to the technology, but to the right to do things with that technology. And that comes to behavior, and that comes to attitudes, and that comes right back to gender norms. There was one more stat here. This is a huge issue. And again, the reason I'm bringing up these points is because these are things all of you work on, whether or not you touch digital, whether or not you touch tech in your work. There's a point being made in this report, and this will resonate for you, that girls are not allowed to use mobile phones by their primarily fathers, lately brothers in India, by their families, because their families are worried about child sexual abuse, but they're also worried about the girl going bad. You know, she'll flirt with someone online. I heard there was this whole thing about how girls will elope after meeting boys online and so on and so forth. This is not new to us, right? This is not new. This trying to narrow the space of an adolescent girl and then later on a woman, this is why we exist. This is why we do the work we do as women's rights actors and women's rights organizations. Therefore, we need to really extend this work into the space and the world of education actors and child rights actors, because guess what? These guys, and this is the world I'm in right now, are not always the best at understanding gendered vulnerabilities. So we need the experts on gendered vulnerabilities to really come into the space of child rights. Digital is just one example. So to get back to this point on digital safety, 90% of child sexual abuse images are of girls. So what's happening with protecting and keeping girls from using their brother's mobile phones or their father's mobile phones? The most vulnerable girls are still getting trafficked, are still getting exploited, are still getting raped. I read a statistic that in India, there is not a single 14-year-old boy who has got to that age without being sent a gang rape video on WhatsApp. So are the parents right in saying, yes, there are major concerns and safety issues related to my daughter going online? There are, but preventing her from going online is not the way to go. What we need to do is make sure that there's really, first of all, we need to make sure patriarchy doesn't lead to that gang rape. Secondly, we need to work with boys to reject those images. And obviously we need to have better regulation to protect all children. So the 2 points I wanted to make, which I hope I've already made. One is girls cannot be left up to non-gender experts. Their needs are as acute and sometimes more acute than women because they are additionally vulnerable because they're young. So we really need women's rights UN agencies, women's rights foundations, women's rights CSOs, to really step into the space and really begin to think, how can we bring our expertise to serve girls? And in our work with women, what are we doing to connect mothers to daughters? It's amazing to me that we don't do more work on this because not in all cases, but where a woman is supported to overcome her gendered vulnerability, she is most likely to be the biggest champion for her daughter. Not that fathers don't and not that fathers can't, but that kind of connection in a family that is sort of a movement building within a family of recognizing a shared vulnerability based on identity and responding to that is very powerful. And if we can do that for communities, I think a lot of the SDGs would move a lot faster. And then the other point is, at Angai, I meant to start with a brief description about Angai, so let me do that now. The UN Girls Education Initiative is the only UN entity dedicated to girls' education and gender equality in and through education. We've been working more and more in the past several years, not just focusing on gender parity, getting girls into school, but really looking at how can you use education as a platform to achieve gender equality. So not just SDG 4, but SDG 5. And we believe there's a lot of potential. Here's a platform where we're reaching every child every day. How can we use that opportunity to bring up children to become adults who are different from us, who are better than us? Because let's face it, we've come a long way, but we still have such a long way to go. I'll stop there. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Antara, for showing us how UNGI uses digital technologies to advance gender equality in education and to empower women, and for your examples and the risks that must be overcome in order for us to have a world that's safe for women and girls. Now, unfortunately, Magdala Cooper has not been able to arrive. So we'll move into the Q&A. Please put your questions in the chat. And Jillian, would you want to start reading the questions for our panelists?
Absolutely. So I'd like to begin, actually, Pam, there was a question for you to start with. And it went with, in your introductory statement, you made reference to the use of digital technology in the classroom that was often met with resistance from teachers who are responsible for teaching young girls and boys. The question to you is, how can the information obtained through the work of NGO CSW be used to improve the preparation that teachers are currently receiving in colleges and universities?
Thank you for that question. It's very interesting. The revolution that the pandemic brought with it it was really interesting. It forced many educators to reassess their reluctance. Some retired, some left the profession, and then others were able to change their techniques. They began to understand that other modalities were necessary. In the NGO community at the UN, there are many universities and university professors that are part of our community, and anyone that wants to partner with us to learn more and to bring their students to the NGO CSW forum and to even have separate one-on-one conversations. I'm always open for it. That is my true passion, and I'd be glad to help anyone. I've been an adjunct professor at a university, and I understand the challenges that they're facing.
Pam, I'll just add, one of the things we saw was school districts that needed capacity during the pandemic that didn't have the infrastructure. So that's something that not just organizations like Panasonic, but Google, different philanthropic partners came in support of, really trying to build an infrastructure in school districts that weren't ready to go, didn't have the access. And so we are seeing more initiatives to support teacher professional development in the just technology space and getting them more comfortable using this hybrid model and supplying access computers to students, Wi-Fi. We heard so many stories of students that didn't have access to the Wi-Fi connection. So it's been interesting to see, but I think that the philanthropic community has really come out in support of really trying to address the critical gaps we saw in school districts.
Thank you, Alejandra. My response was specifically to how can CSW partner.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that the corporate community has really been stellar in bringing forth initiatives to help school districts enhance their work and to offer an enhanced learning environment for their students. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. And Alejandra, since I have you here, there are a bunch of questions for you. So I'm going to take two of them first. The first part being, can you share some examples of how Panasonic is working on pipelines of leadership of women? And the second is, how do your programs fund and integrate social and emotional learning and resiliency building in STEM and STEM projects?
Thank you. Let me just start off by saying I didn't mean to offend my Canadian counterparts. I only provided a small snapshot of statistics that, yes, we're more represented of the US, but we do have business presence in Canada, and we do have initiatives that we are exploring for women in higher education. So definitely more to come. We also work in partnership with counterparts in Mexico. We are a global company, but I'm only here to represent the work that I have the pleasure of leading for North America. So I do have other counterparts. I'll be happy to share information with them about this community so that we can also share the good work that's happening globally. In regards to the leadership of women, I am leading the diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda for Panasonic North America. I have colleagues and counterparts from Japan, Brazil, Europe, to name a few, that we are working in collaboration, making sure we're aligned to increase pathways for women in leadership, especially as it relates to our industry. We have identified key goal indicators where we're starting to track as a company the pathways for women in leadership and women in management. And I think for us as a company in North America, we're led by Megan Lee. She's our CEO. She started her career 30 years ago as an intern and rose through the ranks to lead the North American Panasonic group, which is inspiring. And we hope we can continue to share her story. So pathways for women in leadership is a huge priority of the work that I'm leading in our diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. In regards to social emotional learning, we do look for nonprofit partners. And I want to clarify, the work we do through the foundation is focused on middle school because we see the access point of drop off for young women. So middle school is a big focus for us. And within that, we embed in our grants applications, we want to make sure that our nonprofit leaders can provide support services, wraparound support services. So that includes having a focus on social emotional learning. We know there's a lot of trauma, especially in communities that don't have access to resources, healthcare, mental health and wellness, access to technology. So social emotional learning, we have some partners, and especially I think Newark, New Jersey has some great work that's been done through the Newark Trust for Education. My great friend and colleague, Ron Chalisan, was leading the philanthropic community in an initiative just focused on how do we embed more philanthropy to focus and uplift the importance of social emotional learning. So hopefully that that helps just kind of show you a little bit about a glimpse of some of the work we're leading through our company on supporting women, investing in our, and we say communities of color, minority students. It's not just English speaking students, it is representative of our immigrant communities that are so richly represented in the United States.
Wow, that was very comprehensive. Thank you so much. And I think the last thing is there's a request for your connection details. So if you're comfortable sharing, to please add them in the chat.
Yes, absolutely. And through LinkedIn, I think that's a great platform. But yes, I'll be sure to share my contact info.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'd like to move to Isata now. There is a question for you. I don't completely understand the question. So if whoever did it would like to help jump in. The question was, what about COMSA and part of the AU in the western part of the continent? What about the group MTC in Zimbabwe? I'm sorry, I don't have context. So if Isata, you can help me out, or whoever asked the question would like to come back to it.
Yeah, maybe they'll need to come back to that.
Okay. Because I didn't get the terminology completely. I apologize. But with that, I think my colleague and I have covered questions in the chat, unless, Devin, I've missed something. Or if someone else has a question, they'd like to raise their hand, I'm happy to take another question. Okay, I see Ivy has a question for Antara. The Skills for Girls portfolio sounds great. Could you share any lessons learned from this? I see it's supported by the private sector.
Thanks, Ivy, and thank you for sharing about the girls, about the work that you're doing on the Girls Working Group. That sounds wonderful. The Skills for Girls program is managed by a different part of UNICEF, the gender team that I used to be a part of. So I'm not able to speak too much on it, but what they basically do, they have a framework of bringing together hard and soft skills for girls, interesting terminology where the soft is more feminine. But regardless, they bring together foundations like Chloe and Estee Lauder, who fund programmatic work in countries that are then led by UNICEF country offices, focusing on adolescent girls, building their skills, their knowledge, SRHR to some extent. And I can certainly find out and share more information with you, but on the website, there'll be a lot of information.
Thank you. Thanks, Antara. Still looking for another question, if there is one. Oh, thanks, Huri. So Huri found another question. Oops, the chat's really running away with me today. Yeah, so I think the second part of the question was, what about the group MTC in Zimbabwe, Isata, which we touched upon, but I think I'm not sure if you know what the context is, MTC group in Zimbabwe. No, I guess not.
So I am in West Africa, in Sierra Leone. And even if we just take it by region, we know that we have similar issues across the continent, but we also have, of course, peculiarities. And I think particularly in our region, where we have statistics that are really deplorable about girls' and women's educational levels, we have to find new ways of doing. So the informal education we provide for women who can't go back to a formal classroom, but then need to learn, need to earn a living wage. So the relevant education that we provide enables them to have really dignified work. And I think, as I said, the connection there is the more we're able to ensure that women are okay, their daughters will be supported, which is something Antara touched on as well. And she talked about mothers and daughters. How do we get them together? And I think we are all mothers in that context. So the idea that women should be visible really is a way to ensure that girls are more interested in being educated. So if somebody looks at me and says, I want to be like Honorable Aissata Kabia, they're more likely to suffer the pains of gaining an education beyond what the law says. So the law says everybody should go to school. But for girls to be able to want to do that, they want to see something that they're aspiring to be. So that could be their mother, Antara, right? They could be their mother once their mother is empowered, once their mother is strong, once their mother provides that visible example at home. And in cases where that is absent, we all have to be those mothers. So our visibility as women is really important for girls to have the kinds of examples that some of us did not have when we were growing up.
Thanks, Aissata. And actually, I have a question for the three of you now. And some of you may have heard at the earlier segment, we talked about advocacy. What's the best way to do? We did a poll on it. We took feedback from the audience here. But I really want to know from you, what was the one thing that has worked? We're going back into CSW 67 in March next year. It's planned to be hybrid. There is some kind of level of uncertainty. How do we reach the right people? What if they are in a Zoom room and we're in person? Some say, yes, social media is the way to go. We're trying to find the right mix. To each of you, what would you think that mix is? And I'd like to start with Alejandra, then Antara and Aissata.
I think the hybrid model is a good opportunity to have fellowship in person, but still provide access to those who aren't able to be there in person. A lot of the work we continue to lead with different communities has been hybrid because we might not have the opportunity to be there physically with them, but we're able to connect through the use of technology. So I would say a hybrid, a combination of in-person, if it's feasible, and leveraging technology for the gathering of individuals that are not able to attend.
Thank you.
I'd agree with that. Thank you for that, Alejandra. I think, sitting here in New York and just having gone through Transforming Education Summit, there is a power to collective voice, and there is a lot of power to young people's voices. Now, we have to be really careful that we don't join in the tokenizing of young people's voices and sort of like this cute, sexy thing of a young person coming on stage and speaking. Not that, but to the extent where we can really partner with young feminists, the extent to which we can bring in voices from the community. You're so right, Aissata, in saying it shouldn't be grassroots, your friend was. And now that you've said it, I can't use that word anymore. So I'm not going to use that word anymore. It's so true. It's like saying going to the field, right? We did a joint letter from 45 organizations to ask Transforming Education Summit to include a session on gender, and it worked. But as you all know, it has to be from both sides. It wasn't just that we wrote the letter and posted it publicly. We had to find the people within the organizers who were sympathetic to it, who wanted it, and then they told us, make sure you put this in the letter, maybe don't say that in the letter. So I think those two things are important. Having a very clear ask that can be answered at CSW is really important. So not, how can women become equal to men? Well, that's a generic, that's something we've been trying to do for hundreds of years, but a very clear, specific ask. Where is we ask for 7% of X budget. That kind of specificity, I think, makes it useful, and it helps leaders on the other side get on board. And then finally, having one head of state be a part of the group can be very, very helpful. It gives a credibility that's really important. I'm so sorry, I have to run for another webinar, but this has been fantastic to have this solidarity and to be in the space with all of you, to hear from Alejandra and Aissata. Thank you so much for having me here, and I'm really looking forward to working more with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure, Antara. Thank you for making the time. We'll talk soon. Isata, I go back to you.
So for me, if we keep in mind inclusion and the center of everything we do, we're more likely to get it right. Which means that in particular, we have to include those who are most affected. Which means that even as we're designing social media campaigns, those we're advocating for digital penetration for are the ones who are less likely to see those campaigns. So if we're talking about inclusion and they can't access the conversation through social media because they don't have the digital access, and they possibly can't be physically at the meetings because they can't access visas to travel to New York, we have to make sure that we correct that. So we have enough time to ensure that physically those people are present. Because what I have learned is that the best advocates are the ones who are most affected. So I can be a link to talk about their stories, which is what I think I do constantly. I talk about the women that I work with, not for, because their solutions that they proffer are more likely to work, not just because we're listening to them, but because they're the ones who've been through the pains of it. So if we fight very hard to include those voices, we can't get it wrong. And if we're able to get those people who can't have the access that we're advocating for to tell that story of what that looks like, what that feels like, what that limitation is like on their daily lives, I think that should be our focus.
Super. Thank you so much. And I see Pam's got her hand up. So I'm going to hand over to Pam. I think she has a question.
Thank you. Thank you both. And my final question is, if you were writing a tweet to this audience, and the tweet would be a call for action, 240 characters or less, what would you tweet to this audience that they could keep in their hearts going forward, that would help them keep digital education and the empowerment of women and girls in their hearts?
I love that question. I'm trying to think of my tweet and how many characters I put in there, but I would say that there's a lot of bright spots because the future is female. We've got amazing leadership, not just represented here, but that we know globally, that is really inspiring, empowering, and will continue to sustain our communities moving forward. So I would say get involved with CSW. And continue to elevate, continue to support one another. We have a long road ahead of us, but progress is on the horizon. We've seen it. We want to continue to build on it. So it's been an honor just to be in fellowship with you all. And my tweet would have probably already cut off, but that's the message. The future is female. We got to continue to do this great work.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. I know you're busy. Thank you for taking the time. We love you and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
And the Honorable Isata Kadia.
I'll let you go first because my tweets always turn into 2 or 3. I don't have 20. I would say I am every girl, so not even every woman. I am every girl, because that's how we all start out. And just remembering how hard that is for so many girls around the world, you can imagine they grow up into women who still have to endure. So my tweet would be, I am every girl, and we can go further together.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. I know how busy you are. I know your schedule, and it is so appreciated for you to come and share your work. So with that, we will turn the floor back over to Hootie. Thank you, Jillian.
What an amazing session. And I hope you all are reading the chat and seeing how everybody's reacting to this. Just like our panelists, how busy they are, and they make the time to be here. I want to thank every single one of you for being here. There's so much out there for us to go and engage with. And I'm just so grateful that you take the time to come and check in with us and share your expertise, share your comments and your even disagreements. You know, I love to hear from everyone. And I'm so glad that we're going to be able to give you a few minutes back so that you can all perhaps have a little meditation session, a little reflection, and also sending out the love to all the women and girls out there fighting for our rights. I'm going to suggest, as usual, to unmute yourselves so we can say goodbye. And I want to thank Pamela and Jillian and Ivy and Annie and Devin. All right, everyone, unmute yourself so we can feel each other's presence.
Thank you,
everyone.
Bye.
And thank you,
Bye.
Beth, for sharing all that information.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
And keep your eyes open for the Iranian event we're organizing.
The only word I can come up with. Awesome.
Bye.
Adios.
Music.